so excited. I'm off to see my cousin Johnny van HAEFTEN. He's the great nephew of Lord Brocklehurst, the great South Pole explorer. I want to go for a holiday to the South Pole. He's going to tell me everything.
Things have changed a bit since my uncle went.
You know, I don't do utilitarian dress. I don't like it. Everybody wear the Carhartt. I don't like the Carhartt. And they wear the big red. I have the big red. The big red have everything I need in it.
We start in 1907 when my great uncle, who was the brother of my grandmother, met a young naval lieutenant at a cocktail party, as one does.
Like you do?
Like you do. And the young naval lieutenant said to him, "What are you doing for the next couple of years?" He had been at Cambridge, was a boxing blue, had nothing planned. So he said, "Why don't you come to the Antarctic with me?" What a good idea, he said. And he did. And this young man turned out to be Shackleton. And Shackleton took this expedition in 1907 to 1909 to the South Pole. There is Shackleton holding the ice pick. And this is my great uncle, who was called Sir Philip Brocklehurst.
Lord Brocklehurst to you.
Who was the geologist on the expedition.
My, what a big flag he had.
He had a big pennant.
What a very big pennant.
This is Brock the Badger for the Brocklehurst, and this is his sledge. And of
You
course,
have a sledge.
we have a sledge.
Look, there is a sledge. Let me introduce you to my husky, Dennis. Oh yes, he is South Pole ready.
So that's the sledge that went to the South Pole in 1907 and is made up of all the boxes that they took with them of the food, and you can still see some of the stencil marks of tin peas and marrow and things. This is great uncle. There's Shackleton with the ice pick, and there indeed is the ice pick. So he's just arrived in Antarctica in 1907. They haven't built the hut at Cape Royds yet. So this is Marston, Day, Murray, Frank Wild with the pipe, my great uncle. And of course, before they built the hut, they had to just sling a couple of oars together, throw a sail over it, and that's what kept them warm. And, you know, in Antarctica, he's wearing a trilby, a tweed jacket, corduroy trousers, and a pair of boots. After he'd met Shackleton, Shackleton wrote to him on British Antarctic notepaper, telling him to take up a course of practical surveying, learn to use the theodolite. He went up to the top of Mount Erebus. I nearly said Everest, but you can see the height of Mount Erebus. Well, he did halfway up. He got
He got his rocks off.
Well, he got his toe off because he got frostbite. And Dr. Marshall had to amputate it with an axe without an anaesthetic, which is not nice.
Poor Uncle Phil had his toe cut off, yes. He had the gangrene and they cut it off.
And the toe he kept it, and he gave it to a girlfriend. Now, who gives a sort of desiccated toe to a girlfriend?
I prefer a rock.
That would be better.
A rock, yes.
Anyway, the toe existed until about 10 years ago. The girlfriend kept it, but then sadly she died, and the family didn't know what it was, and they threw it away.
Did they think it was a cocktail sausage? Oh, look who's here!
This is Napoleon.
Napoleon!
Because he's an emperor penguin.
I bring my own penguins, the penguin biscuit. Oh, they're so good. Now, the only Napoleon I know is this Napoleon, and this is the only one I need. Cheers.
I'm sure the people in Antarctica will know Mount Erebus intimately, but I bet they haven't brought down on their backs a lump of rock from Mount Erebus, which my great uncle, aged 20, even with frostbite in his toes, managed to bring down from the top of Mount Erebus. That was at the crest and the top, and he brought it down with him.
Really?
This was a present from Amundsen in 1911, who he met, and this is a sledge dog harness. These are all his mugs. And there's a candle there, which he would use for reading books at night. And he would stick it in his ear.
Oh, who's this here?
This is Ambassador Middendorf, an American, wonderful guy who's a great friend of mine. He's still alive, he's 96 now. We spent a lot of time in Antarctica, and indeed it inscribed, Johnny, greetings from Antarctica. And Ambassador Bill Middendorf was the American ambassador to The Hague in the Netherlands. Then he became Secretary of the Navy, but he loved Antarctica, and he loved to come here and look at all the Antarctic relics and things that I showed him. Uncle's goggles, snow goggles, which I guess probably wouldn't be much use today. And they're incredibly fragile, of course, too.
Yes, yes.
This is Omar Khayyam underneath, and then his prayer book. which have got, actually, I can show you, the British Antarctic Expedition postmarks in them. This was February the 3rd, 1908, when that was put on.
Oh my goodness.
And this was to Philip Lee Brocklehurst with his mother's love in October 1901. There's his medical kit, which has iodine and all sorts of things, and elastoplast.
Oh, I've got elastoplast.
Well,
I just wondered whether this would work.
You're well equipped then.
Yes, I am. Look, I have elastoplast. It's frozen. I thought that might be useful to have frozen elastoplast.
Very appropriate. This is the famous book, the Aurora Australis, that was printed in Antarctica. So they took a printing press with them and printed this book. They only made 100 copies, but only 65 survived. These are just snaps. They're not professional
Holiday
photographs.
snaps.
They're holiday snaps. That's you, isn't it?
It's
Almost.
very much.
It's
yes.
very much like
Very
you.
much.
Meat coming on board.
This is
I wonder if your friends eat this sort of seal. Inscriptions are quite funny.
windy gully. Oh, I
A
know
windy
that.
gully. Quite often he'd be on an ice floe taking photographs of something, and there'd be a bang, bang. It was a killer whale trying to knock them into the sea
Into
because
the
they
sea.
thought they were seals.
motor car.
They had a motor car, an Arrol Johnson. Bearing in mind this is 1907, the cars have only just been invented. Of course, they didn't realise that it wouldn't work because the petrol froze.
No.
Shackleton got within 97 miles of the pole, but had to turn back because he was running short of food.
Oh, I think I might take a little biscuit.
Yes, do help yourself.
Yeah. Which one?
Yes, not that one.
Oh, crumbs.
This is this is a biscuit which was one of the last biscuits left on the expedition. Of course, incredibly valuable to them because they were running out of food, and as I say, they had to turn back and come back to England. This biscuit came up at Christie's 20 years ago with an estimate of 50 to 100 pounds, but unfortunately, it had my uncle's name on it, so I felt I had to buy it for the collection.
You need take the biscuit.
Crumbs. This is exactly what happened because it ended up costing me £5,000
That's a lot of dough.
because I got into a bidding battle.
I think I might take one of these biscuits.
Take one of those biscuits, yeah. Good.
Not the biscuit. No.
Not this biscuit.
Not
because
that biscuit.
I still have the Guinness Book of Records
Look
as
at
the world's most expensive biscuit. I managed to find enough bread to pay for it. I'm sorry, I'm on a roll.
I've gleaned a lot of information, and I think I might be ready to go to the South Pole. And
You have to go and invest in a few clothes, I think.
you need to be kitted out with all the right shoes. Here are my snowshoes. It's very, very good. They're not Manolo Blahnik, but they will do for this year. Thank you. And of course, I have a screw. I love a good screw, don't you? Inspired by Shackleton, he put some screws under his shoes for the grip. So you never know. I can be ready too with my screws.